Let's count down with Adam Thielen, honorable mention last year. Honorable mention. It's a guy that's been in the league for a while, who's made his impact as a Viking, and I mean already as a Panther, he's been that reliable go-to for Bryce Young. Definitely, I think isn't going to slow down with the catches and stuff. He might slow down with his speed, but I mean he's still a very high IQ receiver, and definitely a guy that you want on your team. Great leadership. Yeah, overall, Adam Thielen is one of those guys that people really don't pay attention to, man. But I mean, they need to. They absolutely need to. He's just a great leader, and he's been doing it for so long, adapting to everything. Thielen, 33 years old, 11 years in the league. He's got 3 years, $25 million on his contract. Played 17 games, had 103 receptions for 1,014 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 fumbles. There was no accolades, there was no playoffs for this guy, but definitely a guy that you need to watch on every given Sunday. Next, we got Terry McLaurin, man. Honorable mention last year. Honorable mention. It's just a guy that produces at a great level every single year. His numbers might not be eye popping, but I mean, he cracks 1,000 yards almost every year. Does it with a million receivers out there in Washington. Definitely that go to guy out there, and definitely always feels like he's got something to prove. Definitely a guy that I hope can go to a playoff game um, and excel. I hope he's one of those guys I root for to really have a lot of success and and eventually win a ring. That'd be nice for him. Um, but yeah, Terry McLaurin, 28 years old, 6 years in the league, 2 years, $36.5 million left on his contract. 17 games played, 79 receptions for 1,002 yards and 4 touchdowns. So overall, an okay, pretty decent season. Definitely not, like I said, not eye popping, but I mean, this is Terry McLaurin. He's definitely really fun to watch, and that's pretty much the main reason I feel like people would watch a Commander game is due to him. So overall, I mean, he's impactful. Just hope that he goes to a better place where he can actually win. Next you got DJ Moore, man. A Bear receiver that could see his numbers drop just a bit. I still think he is the primary receiver out there. Caleb Williams is gonna have a great time throwing to him, along with the Dunes and along with Keenan Allen. I mean, it's just gonna be explosive offense all day long. This Bears team will be pretty scary. Uh, Definitely to face in the NFL offensively, defensively. We'll see what happens there, but we're paying attention to DJ Moore, man. The main dude, the guy that has definitely benefited from that Carolina Panther trade, and definitely a leader, and a guy that needs to get more recognition. Definitely, low key, I think he definitely will excel, and I think he definitely can be a top 10 receiver in this league. I think, and that starts next year. That's my bold take, but I do believe that he can be a top 10 receiver by the end of next year. He's 27 years old, 8 years in the league, 2 years, $32.1 million on his contract. He played 17 games, had 96 receptions for 1,364 receiving yards, 8 touchdowns. He had a fumble and one lost. No accolade, but I mean, this is a guy that can have accolades. Definitely a guy that can step up this next year even more, big time. And with Caleb Williams out there, who's got high hopes of being um, the potential of even like comparing him to Pat Mahomes, which is a stretch, but I do believe that he's got high hopes and high potential, and I think he's gonna do well out there in Chicago. They are in a good state to be in, definitely as a Bear fan. We got is, I mean, a super smart draft pick, super smart, um, you know, kind of realization that Jay Jettas needs someone, right? Adam Thielen was that guy. Before Jay Jettas, they had Stephon Diggs and Thielen. They tried it with Osborne. I think he's a good slot dude. I think he's going to give you a solid 30 receptions a year. He's not a number two definitely not a number two. Jordan Addison fits the bill of a number one when you need it, but then that number two right there on the other side when Jefferson's over here double or triple teamed. Not that they're gonna ever do that, just because Jordan Addison is a monster. Definitely complements Justin Jefferson really well. I think the Vikings offense, they've always had a great history of having two fantastic receivers, and I mean they just continue that tradition. Jordan Addison, he's young, man. He was a rookie this past year, 22 years old, 1 year in the league officially from that rookie year. He has 3 years, $5.98 million on that contract. 17 games played, 70 receptions for 911 yards and 10 touchdowns. Again, huge influence when Justin Jefferson was out from injury. I mean, and this is a guy that you want to make sure he has the ball, man. He runs great routes. He's fast. Like I said, smart draft pick from them, and I mean it's really paid out. He's an entertaining guy, and he definitely can be top 10 potential eventually. Next, another top 10 potential guy as well. Receivers are a huge part of the game. They are the most that I have on this countdown. It's very hard to kind of put a guy on top 10 when there's just so many talented receivers out here. And they put the numbers that they do, especially in today's game. But Chris Olave is one of these guys that you really want to watch on film and just see the greatness that he has the potential to be. Had Derek Carr throwing him the ball. He's not like a all pro amazing quarterback, right? But Chris Olave made him look amazing, and I mean he's had a great year because of it, man. Chris Olave, 23 years old, 2 years in the league, 2 years, $5.78 million left in his contract. 16 games that he played, 87 receptions for 1,123 yards and 5 touchdowns. No accolades, but he's still young. He's still going to be top 10 potential, and I mean he's got the ability to win awards definitely. Yeah, just a smart football player, a great football player to watch, and definitely if you want to watch some great receiving, this video has some great receivers in there for you to really keep an eye on, especially with the teams that you don't really normally see on TV or normally see like actually like you're surprised that they're a great playmaker. You got to look at these kind of guys. Take a look at a guy that's a freak of nature. You look at DK Metcalf. DK Metcalf, honorable mention this year. He dropped from 10 to an honorable mention. I know it was tough to really put him down there just because I mean as a player I enjoy him. I think I'm a fan of his just because he's built like Megatron and he definitely can and will dominate you. But his inconsistencies of games where he's had a great number of receptions and then all of a sudden it drops to like one or two passes that he's caught in another game, and the fact that he needs to calm down on uh, his attitude. I think he definitely gets extremely heated, and that's football for you. But the great players, you gotta fight through that. You can't get into altercations, man. You just gotta honestly just keep the ball rolling. I know you're not getting anything that day, or maybe it's not coming to you naturally on that week because of the opponent. But the great players, they gotta fight through that and find ways to get space and create openings for you to make plays. And I think DK has that ability. I just think it's inconsistent, and I think that's why he is downgrading for me as a receiver in terms of him being on a top 10 list right now. Great athlete though. 26 years old, 6 years in the league, 2 years, $31 million left in his deal. 16 games played, 66 receptions for 1,114 yards and 8 touchdowns. He was a Pro Bowler, and deservedly so. Just yeah, he just needs his numbers to get up, which means he needs to be more consistent on a week to week basis. And overall, I mean, he's got the potential to be top 10 every year. Definitely the physical specimen to be a freak of nature, which he is, and yeah, we'll see what he does this year. Next, we got his counterpart, Tyler Lockett, a guy that I don't think will go to a top 10 list probably for the rest of his career, but who knows, man? His ability of still playing at a high level for playing almost a decade. Definitely, I mean, his ability early in his career with Russell Wilson was phenomenal. Definitely made people realize, yeah, he was a great draft pick, and he was. It was a smart draft pick for Seattle. Definitely has been a playmaker. Definitely his speed has definitely decreased, but he's still a reliable guy. Can run the long routes out there. Just a reliable, and I think he's just gotten better as a route runner throughout the years, and that's something that's fantastic to focus on that craft. Just overall work ethic, man. Work ethic is fantastic for Tyler Lockett. I definitely think he complements DK a lot, and Seattle's offense really runs through him and DK. So, I mean, just the way that they are able to, space it out and, you know, both get the catches that they need. I think Tyler's been a little more consistent with it than DK has. But I mean, he's definitely deserving of being relevant, and I think people still need to watch Tyler Lockett. I still think he's very impactful for this football team. Um, and yeah, Tyler Lockett, 31 years old, 10 years in the league, 2 years, $29.66 million on his contract. Played 17 games, had 79 receptions for 894 yards and 5 touchdowns. There was no accolades with this guy, but I mean, we all know what he was able to do. Definitely well deserved, and hopefully he can make a top 10 again. But that's all based on what happens this year, and I hope he continues to do what he does in Seattle. This person is a brand new Chicago Bear, man. Keenan Allen. Um, First of all, talented as hell, entertaining as hell, really great receiver, potential of being top five, top 10 receiver for a while. But his whole career, I think he's just been derailed with injuries, and that's kind of hurt him from being recognized as one of the top receivers. He really is, though. I mean, when he's healthy, I mean, he's a guy. He is a guy, and having him with DJ Moore, O'Dunes, Komet, I just think that's crazy. I think uh, that's I mean, who do you throw it to? And that's such a great, place to be if you're Caleb Williams as a rookie, knowing, well, I got all these guys, like whoever I throw it to. I mean, they got the ability to do that and impact games. Keenan Allen can impact games. He definitely has definitely been such a huge piece to a Charger team for a long time, and again, injuries derailed him, and I think it really showed his inability of playing because of injury. They definitely needed him. They definitely had more of a fire when he was out there in the lineup and whatnot. But Keenan Allen, he's 32 years old, played 12 years in the league already. 1 year, $23.1 million left in his deal. Again, he's a Bear now. 13 games played, 108 receptions for 1,243 yards and 7 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, one lost, went to a Pro Bowl. Overall, fantastic. Um, Great season. Just can he stay healthy? That's a number one thing really. Can he stay healthy? We will see with that, but overall, he should be relevant. Impact he does, and we should see that impact in Chicago as well this year. We got DeAndre Hopkins, man. DeAndre Hopkins, definitely a legend, future Hall of Famer for sure. Just a guy that's been roaming and in Tennessee this year. He definitely went back to the old DeAndre Hopkins that we know. Um, Unfortunately, it's not top 10 material just because of the stats wise. But I mean, he had a great year, man. He played with Ryan Tannehill and Will Levis. I mean, two QBs that are mid tier, and he was able to pull it off and still be effective throughout the year. So I mean, good on him. Definitely needs to be applauded for that, admired for that. Yeah, overall, I mean, you look at him still balling, 31 years old, 11 years in the league. He's got 1 year, 14 million left on that deal. 75 receptions for 1,057 yards and 7 touchdowns. Um, yeah, I mean, we'll see what happens. Will Levis should probably become the starting QB, unless something else changes. But yeah, you should still see DeAndre doing DeAndre things, and you know, I hope that he continues his success and builds on that Hall of Fame career resume. We got Garrett Wilson. up next out here, a guy that is overlooked just because of the Jets. Really, I know he was hyped up with that Hard Knocks and with the fact that they had Aaron Rodgers. But before Aaron Rodgers even stepped in, he had a great rookie year. Definitely a guy that was very respected. Definitely the league took notice, and I think the league should take even more notice this year with Aaron Rodgers being healthy. And I really do believe he'll be a 100 reception guy. I do believe he will be. Um, like has the ability of being 1,300 to 1,500 receiving yard kind of guy. Um, and I could see him getting around 6 to 8 receiving touchdowns. I just believe, with playing with Zach Wilson when he got injured, then I think they went to Mike White, I believe. They just were super disorganized because of the Aaron Rodgers injury. They were not prepared to, to have life without Rodgers. So I mean that was a huge thing for that organization where they messed up. But I mean Garrett Wilson showed he can still ball out. He can still play football at a high level, and that's why he's here. That's why he has the ability of also being a top 10 potential for next year, man. I mean, so overall, he's got a lot of talent. Fast dude, great route runner, very smart, great hands. So overall, yeah, great dude. Um, he's 23 years old, 2 years in the league. He's got 2 years, $6.07 million on that rookie deal. 17 games played, 95 receptions for 1,042 yards and 3 touchdowns. Two fumbles, two lost. Definitely could be better with that. But overall, I mean, great receiver. Just Aaron Rodgers will be impactful for him, and he will have an explosive year next year. All right. Yeah, we got Courtland Sutton out here. A Denver Bronco. I believe the only Denver Bronco out here on this list. He is the motor. He is the guy that will be able to, make this Bronco offense move. He's definitely the only answer. Um, in honest opinion, he's the only answer. Um, yeah, it's honestly kind of crazy to think about, but Courtland Sutton has been phenomenal for him. Definitely a touchdown magnet last year. Definitely a guy that needs more props, I believe. Definitely someone that you need to watch more on Sundays. If you have red zone, you need to watch this guy. He really is talented. Big body receiver. So I mean that's always fun to watch. Courtland Sutton, 28 years old, 7 years in the league, 16 games played, 59 receptions for 772 yards, 10 touchdowns, three fumbles, three lost. Not great there, but overall, talented guy. Definitely some guy that Bo Nix will be looking towards to all next year, and yeah, just expect probably better numbers. I would say more catches there, but like I said, we will see with this guy. Next up, we got Michael Pittman Jr., the Colts receiver. They got some talent out there, especially with the rookie Downs. Definitely, we'll definitely see him on this relevant list. Hopefully next year. He's got the potential of being in here. But yeah, Michael Pittman Jr. He's the guy that gets overlooked. Not many people really pay attention to him because he's a Colt. But I mean, you look at it. This is a Colts team that always has, a number of players that are considered stars, and they really do fight into the last end for that AFC South, that wild card spot. So Indianapolis just has always been gritty like that. Past Peyton Manning, it's almost like they've had to fight to have a name, and even then, people just don't know it. But Michael Pittman Jr., at 26 years old, 5 years in the league, he's got signed a 3 year, $70 million extension for the Colts. Played 16 games, 109 receptions for 1,152 yards, four touchdowns, one fumble. No accolades, but I mean, this is Michael Pittman Jr. And I mean, he's had a great year this past year, and I expect a lot more from him next year, especially with Anthony Richardson coming back. I do believe he'll be a very high focal point of this offense. Calvin Ridley, definitely a guy that is underrated. Definitely proved to be extremely highly prolific for this Jags team this past year. Just a guy that we knew coming in his potential. I mean, he did get suspended from Atlanta for I believe it was gambling. I believe, um, whatever that is. I mean, that could be for whatever reason. I mean, could you be suspended? And is like is that ethical? I guess it's ethical, man. My opinion, I guess, is it just sounds a little ridiculous. I mean, I get sports betting is terrible, but suspending him for I believe an entire year, I think that's kind of crazy. But it is what it is. I mean, he served that time, and now he's back at it. Not with the Jags though. Definitely signed a contract with the Tennessee Titans. 29 years old, 6 years in the league. He signed a 4-year, $92 million contract with the Titans. And he played 17 games, 76 receptions for 1,016 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a fumble. And he was seventh in comeback player of the year. So overall, he made a name for himself. He got back to relevancy. He was a huge part of that Jags offense that was, very inconsistent. But I mean, when they didn't have Trevor Lawrence up in there, they'd be looking at Calvin for sure. Just overall, I think he's going to do well in Tennessee, and I do believe that them with DeAndre Hopkins, I think that's low key. It's a good veteran wide receiver core there with those two guys. So I mean, yeah, I'm excited to see what he does on his new team. All right, so we got Christian Kirk, honorable mention last year. Honorable mention. Uh, definitely, definitely a guy that's well, I mean, underrated for sure. Just a great slot receiver that definitely will be used in the slot. I think he's got potential on the outside, but he's more of a slot Wes Welker kind of. Not comparing him to West, but he's over there, man. And I think having a Gabe Davis and drafting Brian Thomas Jr. It just solidifies a much better offense for this Jaguars team. And it's definitely exciting. Hopefully Trevor Lawrence does. He is healthy, and I mean, with the weapons he's got, I really do believe they can go pretty far, and he can have a great season for the QB standpoint. Christian Kirk's gonna have a great year again, definitely. Um, Definitely missed some games out, so it hurt him. But overall, he's a guy that does get 1,000 plus yards, and he does get closer to 100 receptions a year. He's just that kind of guy. He's impactful. He's 27 years old, 7 years in the league, has 2 years, $33 million in his contract. Only played 12 games, but he had 57 receptions for 787 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 2 lost. No accolades, no playoffs, but this is a guy that is impactful, and yeah, it'll be fun to watch what he does this year. Um, Yeah, how about Chris Godwin, man? Honorable mention. Last year was an honorable mention. Definitely a Bucks captain, a huge, huge impactful player for this team. Um, and they go where he goes. Really, I mean, it's great to have two guys that are Chris Godwin, who's definitely in his prime, and hopefully, what I mean by his prime is just to stay healthy. I think he really can, be a game changer. And on the other side, you got a future Hall of Famer and Mike Evans, who's had 1,000 yard receiving yards every single year for his entire career. So it's a good Bucks team. With Baker Mayfield in the mix, it's a good offense. So overall, it is fun to watch at Chris Godwin. When he is injured, it does suck, man. But yeah, you look at Chris Godwin, 20 years old, 8 years in the league, 1 year, $20 million left on the deal. So where is he gonna go? Is he gonna stay in Tampa? He's gonna go somewhere else. I know a lot of teams that could use a guy like him. Yeah, he played 17 games for and got 83 receptions for 1,024 yards and 2 touchdowns against the Eagles and the Lions in that playoff run. He had 8 receptions for 85 yards and a touchdown. So overall, I mean, he was effective. Maybe not like a number one superstar, but I mean, he definitely complements Mike Evans really well, and he's just a great player. Definitely a great player to watch this year. Next, we got a super impressive rookie of this past year, Puka Nakua. Um, yeah, I mean You look at the Rams; they've had some great receivers along the years, and having a Cooper Cup is fantastic. And then it's sad because Cooper Cup has been so good for so long and so underrated, and you started loving him, and then all of a sudden you got this Puka Nakua guy who comes out of nowhere. He's younger and rookie, and he just you know he does his thing, man. He flashes what he can do, and the level of potential he's got. And Cooper Cup, the fact that he's had some injury issues past couple years. I mean, it's not a couple years, but throughout his career he's had some injuries. But Puka Nakua is just like a fresh of breath air. Definitely a guy that will be top 10 on this list. Sooner rather than later, and a guy that you need to cover. You need to watch film on. You want to watch a really good receiver. You watch Puka Nakua and you watch Ram games. Yes, he's lucky to have a QB like Matt Stafford, um, but at the same time, I mean, just his route running, his ability to take a hit, his catching ability, um, they're underrated. They definitely are overlooked. But Puka Nakua, 24 years old, this is 1 year in the league now. 3 years, $3.08 million left on the contract. Played 17 games, had 105 receptions for 1,486 yards and 6 touchdowns and a fumble. In the playoff game against Detroit, he actually was fantastic in that game. He had 9 receptions for 181 yards and 1 touchdown. They um, definitely had a time in that Detroit defense to try to stop the guy, which they really didn't. It was just a matter of who can score the most points, and Detroit did that. So overall, though, Puka Nakua is going to be a problem for a while, and he's definitely going to step up, and I do believe his numbers will get even better the next year. He was a second in offensive rookie of the year voting. He was a Pro Bowler and as a rookie, second team All Pro. Impressive, man, impressive. But well deserved. So next up, we got one of the Eagles receivers in Devontae Smith. A lot of nicknames. One of them is Slim Batman. I mean, he's an entertaining dude to watch. He's been entertaining since he's been in Alabama. Great route runner, pure speed. Doesn't look like he's tough because of the way that he looks so fragile. But yeah, he's a tough football player at that. Just great at trying to get that football and make the most out of it, get first downs. Just overall a great compliment for AJ Brown. With his power and Devontae speed. Definitely Jalen Hurts loves having a guy like Devontae there on his team. It just makes Philadelphia an extremely hard team to prepare for. On the offensive side of the ball for them for sure. Yeah, Devontae, 25 years old, 3 years in the league, 3 years, $75 million on that deal. 16 games played, 81 receptions for 1,066 yards, 7 touchdowns, one fumble, one lost. The wild card game against the Bucks, he had 8 receptions for 148 yards. He's honestly the biggest reason why that Eagles team was moving the ball in that game because Tampa just kind of dominated in that entire game. But Devontae is just a guy that you need to look at, you need to appreciate. Another guy that could be a top 10 type receiver. So I mean, yeah, this league has a bunch of them, and it's hard to rank, man. It's hard to rank. But yeah, this guy has the potential of being a superstar in this league for a while. Next, we got um, the compliment, and also honestly, kind of the looking like the number one receiver out here in San Fran, Brandon Ayuk. Um, yeah, just another guy that just brings a lot of fresh breath air to this Niners offense. It's definitely a guy that's definitely had to work through it. He's had to put some years into it, but man, he is getting better and better each year in terms of just being a complete receiver. Um, Definitely has the speed, obviously, like he's had before. He's just gotten a lot stronger, a lot bigger, physical, and I mean his route running has definitely gone better. Um, yeah, it's a guy that you just want to watch on every Guinness Sunday. I mean, because he's a guy that really can impact the game. And not having a Debo there, I know they got weapons, but Brandon Ayuk's just another guy that you need to watch out for. That's what makes San Fran so dangerous and what makes them Super Bowl contenders. Definitely what makes them, been able to go to a Super Bowl this past year. So, good on him on um, his climb to stardom out here in the league. He's 26 years old, 5 years in the league. He has 1 year, $14.12 million. I did have the running backs video already put up, and apparently they signed Christian McCaffrey to an extension. What does that mean to his future? I can't tell you the numbers and their finances or whatnot, but I don't know. They need to pay the man. They need to pay him his money. And Brock Purdy's contract will be up soon as well. They need to pay him his money. But the more and more I see it, the more I'm like, Brandon, you could find another home. Um, and I mean, like I said, there's a lot of teams that's going to need receivers like him that can definitely impact that team from where they are, and then try to uplift them to where they can be. And Brandon Ayuk has that potential to do that. He played 16 games, 75 receptions for 1,342 yards and 7 touchdowns, one fumble, one lost against Green Bay, Detroit, and the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. He had 9 receptions for 149 yards and a touchdown. Definitely, he's an impactful dude. He's an impactful dude, and it showed because he got a second team All Pro. So good on him. I don't believe he will be a Niner in the future. I do believe he'll be moving on. But I mean, this year he can just showcase another reason why he is that guy. I just hope he can get 100 receptions in his career and step up to where he needs to be at. We're almost done with this honorable mention video with the wide receivers. Just a huge list of them. The next one we're going to talk about, I think a lot of people may know him. He's been a meme. Definitely, honestly, a player that hasn't gotten enough recognition, but again, he was getting the ball thrown to by Kenny Pickett, which I'm not going to critique his, anything about his game. He just needs a better. He just needs a QB man that's maybe more of a veteran or just a player that's a little bit more developed than a Kenny Pickett. But with that said, I mean, he had numbers that weren't even that bad. I think he's a guy that really can have like 100 receptions in a year, and he hasn't done that yet. Still super young. I think he can still develop into a really promising receiver in this league. George Pickens is 23 years old, 2 years in the league, 2 years, $2.93 million on the rookie deal, 17 games played. 63 receptions for 1,140 yards and 5 touchdowns. He had 3 fumbles. Versus the Bills in the wild card, he had 5 receptions for 50 yards and a fumble, which he also lost. Yeah, just a guy that just needs to have more time on his hands to develop. But I mean, he's got the ability to, and so I can't judge him. I really do believe he can be a great electrifying receiver. He's a big dude, so yeah, we're just waiting to see what he does. Um, so um, the new guy on the block here, definitely a guy that he's been in the league, um, for a little bit. He just hasn't had the recognition that he's really deserved. I mean, this is also a guy that got a stud in C.J. Stroud on his side this past year. So it's nice to see him ball out with what he was doing this year. Nico Collins, man, 25 years old, 4 years in the league, 3 years, $72.75 million on the contract. 15 games that he played, 80 receptions for 1,297 yards, 8 touchdowns, and a fumble. Versus Cleveland and Baltimore, he had a total of 11 receptions for 164 yards and a touchdown. Like I said, he's a game changer, big time receiver. Definitely a guy that CJ Stroud definitely is going to look towards to. And now he's got even more ability of looking towards to guys like him, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, Joe Mixon in the backfield, Dalton Schultz. It's a team that's on steroids. Definitely, they're going to be really good this year. And Tank Dell or sorry, Nico Collins' numbers might drop a little bit, but I mean he's still an impactful receiver. He still needs to be relevant, and he still needs to be watched for. So next we got Jalen Waddle. This is one of those guys that I'm kind of sad not to have him on the top 10 list. Definitely, I mean, it's difficult to share the spotlight with the Tyreek in there, just killing it on a week to week basis. So I mean, being a second option, it could be tough because he's got wide receiver one talent. But at the same time, I mean, this is a guy that two would definitely trust in. Been college teammates. Definitely, he loves having him on the same team in the NFL, and he really hasn't been bad. Definitely missed some games this year, which hurt his numbers. But I mean, overall, I think this is a top 10 receiver. The ability of being a top 10 receiver out of so many of them. But Jalen Waddle, just pure speed, dude. Pure speed. Just great ability to get in position for the ball. Um, and he doesn't really get looked at much, but his route running is pretty good, man. Pretty good. Definitely a guy to keep an eye on. Jalen Waddle, 25 years old, 3 years in the league, 3 years, $84.75 million. Played 14 games, 72 receptions for 1,014 yards and 4 touchdowns. In the frigid Kansas City game, he only had 2 receptions for 31 yards. It was a tough day out there for Miami Dolphins offense and fans. But overall, I mean, this is a guy you're going to lean on if you have a chance of being going deep into the playoffs. This is one of those guys that could be and should be a potential X factor for that. Next up, how about Amari Cooper, man? Definitely a guy that is super uh, productive for pretty much the majority of his career. Started out as a Raider, and impacted that team immediately. Got him to a wild card playoff spot. And then, I mean, you look at, you know, um, his ability of playing definitely didn't mesh that well. Um, and it could have been the system for all you know. But when he had those drop passes, people were thinking he's a bust. He does go out to Dallas and explodes, gets his career back to where it is. And now he's in Cleveland. And it doesn't even matter what QB's throwing it to him, he does make it work. Definitely an impactful receiver, and definitely a guy that you do need to watch on Sundays. You need to watch film on if you're the defense side of football. Um, and I mean, he's just he's a guy that gets it done, man. Definitely a blue collar type worker. Uh, just great route runner. Definitely underrated on his speed. Um, just a smart receiver. Will he ever be a top 10? I mean, who knows? I think the numbers are there. It speaks volume to who he is as a player, and I'm happy that he's been able to turn around. But again, Amari Cooper definitely deserves that recognition that he's been getting. He's 29 years old, 9 years in the league, 1 year, $20 million left in the deal. We'll see where he goes after this year. 15 games played, 72 receptions for 1,250 yards, 5 touchdowns, 2 fumbles, 1 lost. Against Houston, um, he had 4 receptions for 59 yards. Wasn't that great, but it gave him a Pro Bowl nod for this year. Very much well deserved. And yeah, I'm excited at what he does with the talent and what he does with Cleveland this year. I do see him, you know, producing the same level that he's been doing. And we'll see if Deshaun Watson will regain that confidence back of how he was in Houston. It's great when you have a guy like Amari Cooper there. Look at the Chiefs. They have the back-to-back Super Bowl championships, and people like to talk about how well, their road was a little surprising because their personnel in terms of, the offensive wise, I feel like they weren't the best, and while that could be slightly true, their receiving core was definitely not, the strongest it's ever been under the Patrick Mahomes era. Um, they definitely have a gem in Rashee Rice. He's super young. He does have, honestly, the ability, especially with Patrick Mahomes there throwing him the ball. He can be a top 10 receiver. I think he's got the ability to. I think they made this run to another Super Bowl with the help of him. So I think people really be overlooking the fact that Rashee Rice was such an impact, and at such a at such a high level, and the fact that he was a rookie doing it. So I mean, overall, I mean, you gotta give props where props are due, and props need to be made to Rashee Rice. Yeah, 24 years old, 1 year in the league, 3 years, $4.01 million on his rookie deal. He had 16 games that he played, 79 receptions for 938 yards and 7 touchdowns. Excuse me, 2 fumbles, one lost. Definitely, like I said, the numbers can be better, but he was a rookie. Let's give him some slack there. Just really smart football player, pretty fast. Great route runner. Honestly, he just continues to go until he's open, or he can try to make a play. Definitely a guy that you need to watch for. Definitely a guy that probably surprised a lot of people last year. In the entirety of the playoffs, Dolphins, Bills, Ravens, and Niners in the Super Bowl, he had 26 receptions for 262 yards and a touchdown, one fumble, and he was sixth on the Offensive Rookie of the Year voting. I mean, yeah, man. We all know he wasn't going to win that just because there's a guy named C.J. Stroud in that. And there's a couple more guys that I could put, like Bijan Robinson, ahead of him in terms of numbers and production. But Rasheed Rice wasn't the X factor. He was that hidden guy that really pushed him over the edge for another Super Bowl title. So, yeah, got to give him credit. But not least, man, how has downgrade been a thing? It's sad, really, and I can't even blame the guy. It's the fact that it's injuries that has, um, kind of taken a toll on his production and exactly what he can be. And what he can be was shown in that Super Bowl run. I mean, he was a triple crown winner, man. So like, yeah, this guy knows what he's doing. He's honestly the main reason the Rams won that Super Bowl. One of them, sure, but I mean, that was a huge thing. That was his drive. Everyone wants to talk about Matt Stafford kind of creating that drive. He wouldn't have done what he did in that last drive against the Bengals if Cooper Kupp wasn't involved in, I believe, every single play, if not most of them, 90% of them, right? Yeah, he's just an impactful dude. He's a smart dude, great route runner. He's not the biggest, he's not the fastest. He's just a great IQ football player, and I mean, his yak is amazing. Definitely, like I said, talented dude, friendly guy. Personally, seen him play in college because I went to his alma mater is my alma mater. So I mean, it's nice to see a guy make it, especially from such a small school, really. But Cooper Kupp, dude, 30 years old, 7 years in the league, was ranked number 6 last year. So the fact that he's honorable mention, like I said, sad but true. His injuries have derailed him a little bit. He's got 3 years, $59.85 million left in the deal. 12 games played, 59 receptions for 737 yards and 5 touchdowns. Against Detroit, 5 receptions for 27 yards. Nothing huge, nothing shocking, nothing mind blowing like he's had in the past. He's still a top receiver and a guy that people need to give credit for. And I hope that he continue to stay healthy, and I hope that he gets back to the old Cooper Cup because I mean he really is a top 10 receiver in this league.